Michael Riotto. G'day.
Hello.
How are you?
Just fine. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Right.
We're here to talk about one of your projects, which is Pier A
Harbor House.
Pier A Harbor House.
Yeah.
Where is that?
It's located down in Battery Park, just below the financial district here in New York City.
And is it on a pier?
It actually is on a pier. Yeah, believe it or not, it's the last remaining pier of its type. So
really?
Yeah.
So when back in its heyday, what did it look like in the area?
Well, it was built in 1886. The original purpose of the building was it was an immigration center for all of the dignitaries that were coming through and being processed through our country. And so most of our ancestors here in the States went over to Ellis Island. What most people don't know is all the dignitaries were kind of segregated off to this Pier A. And so they had special treatment, whatever, and that's how it started out. After that, the fire department took over the building. They had their fire boats based down there. I don't remember exactly what the years were. After they were done with the building, the police department took it over, and they based their marine department down there. And then it was closed for the last 40 years.
So pretty derelict space when you took it over? Or?
Well, yeah, because we were starting out just as the base building contractor was wrapping up, and it literally was holes in the floors. You're looking at ocean water. I mean, and that was just before Hurricane Sandy came through as well. So it was a very dangerous job site. You had to sign all sorts of waivers and what have you, but it was 4 years in the making actually for us.
So built in the 1880s, you said?
1886.
And jutting out over the water, big, beautiful kind of timber floorboards, etc. The whole thing. So what does it look like? I suppose. Like, give me a sort of a sense of the architectural style at when it was built.
Good question. I couldn't really answer that. And the reason for that is because it had several iterations through the years. One of which is pretty cool actually. It was there's a clock tower on top of the building now. It's not original. It was added in, I don't remember, the early 1900s, but it was the first monument for World War I for the veterans. And it was a big deal back then. The Secretary of Defense came up from Washington, D.C. That's when you had parades and bands, and there's a lot of great historic black and white imagery back then. So when that happened, it shifted a little bit. Matter of fact, the architect for the building, I know this much, was an engineer for the U.S. Army Corps. He wasn't even a traditional architect, so it was actually a pretty interesting story.
Why is that important for you to know the history?
Well, I think, with hospitality projects in general, my background is theater for one thing, so you want to tell a story, and there's rare the opportunities, especially on old historic buildings or renovations in general, where you're able to see that thread, that seed that's there, and you want to keep it authentic all the way through. And it's a challenge. You have budgets you have to keep in mind. You have a client. You have revenue we were talking about earlier. In this case, you want to respect the heritage of the building, the fact that it was a part of our history. It's on the National Historic Registry of Buildings. There were so many things that we had to sort of make sure that we kept in check. And not everybody gets that opportunity. So, sometimes less is more, and then really that's what we tried to do.
So tell me about the client. How did you work with them?
First time we worked with them, first of all, the client is HPH Hospitality. And the long story short is that we did our first project together was the Dead Rabbit, which is actually was just voted the world's best bar. Speaking of alcohol, you need to head down. It's just 7 minutes walk from the pier, actually.
And all dead rabbits, or?
Yeah, actually that one is another historic project.
Any dead hairs?
That would have been kind of cool. There's a lot of other dead stuff when we started on that job. But it's actually a true story. It has to deal with there was a movie based on it, Gangs of New York. It was a true story. It happened in that building, in that neighborhood, the 5 Points. It's actually pretty cool. I'll leave it at that. You got to go down and check it out for yourself. But that was the first time we worked with that owner. And on that project, we had a couple of custom fixtures that we designed for them. And it was a big risk for them because they were so used to just kind of having functional lighting, track lighting, down lights, call it a day, so long as they're making money. On that job, we had some challenges. We proposed some custom fixtures. Not only did it look great and was on budget, but it just propelled us for our other future projects, of which this was one of. So when we started on Pier A, and we come up with all these great ideas about bringing in the gauges and being authentic and telling a story and all these things, those are all working artifacts that are down there. So it's actually a museum piece. We had built on our previous history together. So again, this is what you want as a designer. Pretty much everybody here can probably attest to that. You want to have those opportunities.
And
awesome.
to bring the client along with you so that you can do more experimental, more creative things for the next project because you've already sold them on the idea prior.
Sure. Yeah, and again, it's not every day that you have the opportunity to do something like that. And our business is, actually our company is a lighting design firm, but we also have a lighting design build division as well as a custom division. So we kind of have a lot of different tools to the trade and under one house. So when we go in and speak conceptually with the client and we talk about numbers financially and what it would cost to get you this image, we can actually prove it. And again, having worked on Dead Rabbit and other jobs previous to this one, it was just a win-win for everybody.
So, as you said, it's like a museum down at the pier, but you're not going to create lighting that makes a museum piece or a diorama. So what did you do?
Well, it was actually really great. I mean, I know we have limited time here, but the owner, when we started on that project, they didn't know exactly what they wanted. The nutshell is that they wanted a nautical feel. So we themed it out as if it was a ship. We do actually a lot of cruise ship lighting design. So it was, if you were to look at a bird's eye view of the building, it kind of looks like a ship that's pulled into port. In terms of the dimensions, the ratio, length versus width. So doing a lot of research on old steamships. They were all black and white images, and one of the common denominators in all these images were gauges. That's how they communicated for their devices and all of the mechanisms. So what we did is we went out and we took one. It was actually built in 1920 or something like that, built out of solid brass. We did it as a mock-up for the client, and they loved it. And so 150 gauges later, and all of the other trimmings inside, again, it's all authentic. Found objects, reworking them to put lighting elements inside them and speak architecturally as well. In a lot of ways, they became part of the interiors as well. So it was great. It was fantastic.
Back on the client, challenging them to try something new. You talked a bit about how you managed to do this down at the
Dead Rabbit.
The Dead Rabbit,
sure.
The Dead Hare, the Dead Rabbit. In this project as well, now that the project has been realised, I'm wondering what the sort of the result has been in terms of even those who are visiting. How has it changed or transformed the space? Perhaps had impacts on even the economy of running a business like that?
Well, first of all, it's very difficult to pull all of this off and be on time and on budget. I mean, every project, right? And that's kind of what we have, a couple of feathers in our cap in regards to that part. But because it's a landmark building, because it's a National Historic Registry building, because of the history of the building, all these things that we have to attain to, you can't just start going and putting in beautiful sconces that are modern or even may look to be authentic. It has to be authentic because the guest is on top of the architecture in that space. If you go down there, it's 28,000 square foot. It's a busy place. It's shoulder to shoulder. So people are touching the fixtures. They're looking at it. They're actually at a dry bar, and they're looking at a gauge that was built in the mid-1800s. That's pretty cool. They can touch it. They can put a piece of paper on it and do it, with the lead and a crayon or something. But having that real touch really is again rare to have those opportunities. And it was awesome.
Something absolutely tangible. Michael, thank you. It's wonderful to hear about the project.
Thank you very much for having us.